Greetings, everyone. I'm N, and welcome to the Deep Dive Unfiltered, an unscripted series where I give you my thoughts and impressions on the latest One Piece chapter. This week's being chapter 1173, where all of our Straw Hats break apart and face the various threats that have been set out for them. We start with following Zoro, who in the last chapter had a plan, and we see that it's basically just the exact same plan that he had against Pika, that being to just get into the air and try to cut them all up. I know a lot of the community was thinking that he was going to do what the small girl had done when we had first met Dory and Broggy. We learned that they were fighting all this time over a small girl asking who was the strongest. A lot of the community thought Zoro was going to just do the same thing and ask them both who was the strongest, but it seems like we don't even need to do that. It appears that Dory and Broggy's rivalry is just so hard-coded into them that they just begin beating the shit out of each other without Zoro even needing to egg it on. Hello, and from the future here. Just to mention a few things that I kinda missed when talking about my initial impressions. One thing that did kinda go over my head on the initial read-through was another benefit to Zoro going up into the air. That being, as the Giants explained, him not being exactly in between the Giants allows him to not be affected by the Domi Reversi. Now, honestly, I don't think this was intentional on Zoro's part. I'm not sure how much Zoro actually understands the rules of Domi Reversi. It could be intentional, and then I'll eat my hat if Zoro is aware of that game that Emu is playing. But I don't think someone as directionally challenged as Zoro, I can't imagine it was actually intentional. I think he was just replicating the same strategy he had with Pika. Also, on the note of the Domi Reversi thing, I think I don't think it's a coincidence that we're being introduced to this mechanic the arc after we saw Luffy enable Bonnie to manipulate her devil fruit power for her to become her own version of Nika. So in a way, we've already kind of seen Luffy do this same thing to people. Now, obviously, it was different context, because with Emu, these are the rules of a game that they are enforcing onto other people. For Luffy, he enables others in order to do that. He encourages them to be more free. And then that is expressed through Nika. I don't think Luffy is exactly using the Domi Reversi stuff that Emu uses, but I do think it is an intentional parallel. After that, we follow up with Brook. We finally see where he was, and he didn't even get out of the binds. He was just worming his way through caterpillar style, which makes his sudden departure from the rest of the group kind of more funny. Which is funny because I think we were all picturing him somehow miraculously bursting out and running over with some kind of haste. Instead, I now just have the visual of Brook just tilting over and just slowly inching away urgently, while the rest of the crew tied up are just like, Brook, where are you going? Brook, where are you going? And he's just too distracted to respond. Following that, we get the actual name of Gunko when Brook reaches him. This was speculated a lot that Gunko was not her real name, since I believe the literal translation of Gunko, I think, is military child or something like that, from what I remember hearing. So we find out that she is a princess, Princess Shuri. And at least from the current phrasing from Brook, it appears that he believes that Princess Shuri had taken someone that he cared about. Which is interesting, because we do see that Shuri clearly cares about Brook, as she's clearly shouting him to get away as she's under control by Emu. definitely is something interesting that must have gone on, likely during, I believe, an old reverie. It seems like something went wrong during an old reverie because we know Brooke was part of a, uh, yeah, he was the agent of a battle convoy, I believe. He was the soldier of a battle convoy. And since Brooke appears to have knowledge of the God's Knights, it seems more than likely that Brooke may have taken at some point a trip to a reverie, and that's where he had met Gunko, or Princess Shuri, as it appears to be. That might be who he had been escorting, and then something went wrong there, and maybe that's what led Brooke to becoming a pirate in the first place. Another thing that I had neglected to mention on the initial recording of the impressions here, this is our first clash between a Straw Hat and Emu with Brooke. And of course, it's so fitting that it's someone like Brooke, because of course, Brooke was one of the first Straw Hats that stood directly up to Big Mom during the whole Cake Island arc. During the whole Cake Island arc, he had a whole scene of him both completely standing up to an Emperor of the Sea, and then later we discovered snuck the copy of her poneglyph right under her nose. Also, I would like to say it's very funny how Brooke mentions how he first thinks it might be a descendant of Shuri, but they look exactly the same, which is very funny considering how samey Oda tends to draw a lot of his female characters, especially if they are related. Because if you, uh, my brain just immediately went to that one picture of Princess TT. She would be Queen TT, you uncultured swine. Vivi's mother, and how Vivi is basically a carbon copy of her mother. There is not a single bit of Cobra's genes in her. She looks 100% like her mother. Crackpot theory. Vivi is a Mads clone of TT. Going back to Brooke and Gunko, so Brooke does manage to shake Shuri's control back to her, or Brooke manages to shake Emu's control of Shuri for like a little bit before they then take back control of her. But luckily for that moment, it gave the other Straw Hats a moment to escape. We also get a follow up on the kids about to head to the kidnapping vessel that the God's Knights have set up for them, with Saint Summers leading them, like we saw before the flashback. Emu had commanded him to go and watch over the children to make sure they get there. Uh, and it's very funny how in the last chapter this man was ready to take a nap, as now everything has fallen apart for him. When the hostage rescue team of giants finally get there and are confronted by the nightmare creatures, we actually get a really cool move done by both Gerd and Goldberg. And Road. Road is also there, I guess. Th- There, Oda is really trying to shine Road in a slightly more forgiving light, but my God, it's still not working for me. This dude gives me the creeps. We see them do a move very similar to the one we've seen Dory and Brogy use a few times, which is for Dory and Brogy, it's Hakoku sovereignty. Hakoku sovereignty. That being from what I've read, meaning a warrior nation, basically. We see the new giant warrior pirates use a move called Gokaku sovereignty, which the word appears to refer to basically a protest or defense of one's country, which I really like because it follows up on Harold's message of being fighters not just for like the warrior culture of it, but to also defend the peace that we have. And I like that being expressed through the new giant warrior pirates having this combo attack, basically, that sort of honor, that is more so about defending and protecting than it is just about fight battling. Something I also neglected to mention is that Big Mom also had a very similar move to this one. Uh, Crap, I should have had this up. Hers was called uh, Ikoku Sovereignty, with that meaning like mighty or intimidating. So it's not quite a move that's exactly passed down between captains of giants, but I still think the symbolism is there of the new giant warrior pirates doing a very similar move to the first giant pirates that we saw in the series. And it does manage to take out the Nightmare Nika that was terrorizing that had been conjured. Now we do know that they will that those dream creatures will rise again, as Killingham's powers was explained. I I need to double check to see if they either just rise themselves or reappear out of those nightmare holes that were established. But the best part about it is, when after it's hit by the blast, it goes over to Summers, who then knocks it over to protect himself, and it lands right on top of the kidnapping vessel that they were taking the kids onto. So now they have to quickly figure out how to get these kids to. They have to quickly figure out how to get these kids another boat. Now, whether that's somehow managing to steal one, which will be a lot more difficult with the Giants actively fighting against Summers. Or, oh, maybe they could use Killingham's powers to perhaps produce a ship. That could be entirely possible. They'll need to. It'd probably have to be Saint Summers who goes to sleep. I'm not sure if Gunko can still be. I wonder if Gunko can sleep while being possessed. That might be an interesting limitation. If like her body's being puppeteered, maybe she can't like properly be unconscious or like have her brain produce the sort of like REM sleep that causes dreams. Actually, that would make a lot of sense if you can't dream when Emu is possessing you. Because of course One Piece is a whole story about dreams. I think that'd be very fitting if like while Emu has control over you, you just don't dream. It may also be possible that Summers knows how to break Gunko's arrows. He might know the secret on how to do that. So it's quite possible that maybe the Straw Hats will figure that out because Saint Summers now has to do that to stop the kids from just walking into the water. Still no sign of Luffy or Loki at the moment. I'm actually thinking we might not see Luffy and Loki for a bit until like the next sort of big shift into the current conflict that's going on the branch up here, where it there'll likely be another twist where the world government will once again have favor. And then when things seem stressed and lost, we'll see Luffy and Loki jump right back up at like the end of a chapter. And then when we follow up from that chapter, we'll get a flashback on Loki on how they beat the shit out of that one nightmare creature. Also, speaking of the nightmare creatures, am I the only one who loves that one bunny that's in like the top corner of one of the panels? Because like look at the face of that bunny. I love him. So yeah, these were my thoughts on the current One Piece chapter. This whole recording is a mess, and I'm hoping that I can organize it into something coherent for you all to enjoy in post. And hopefully I can get that done pretty soon here. So then I can continue working on the Orange Town video that I am still deep in with editing. But if you guys would like to hear any more of my unfiltered thoughts on One Piece chapters, if you want to see this as a continued series where I look at the chapters as they come out, or perhaps even just talk about other thoughts related to One Piece that just aren't in the linear fashion of the story that the One Piece deep dive is kind of structured around. So if you'd like to hear my own thoughts, my theories on Blackbeard, or how Enel might get back into the story, or anything like that, feel free to put a comment and ask what you might like from this series. All right. This has been the Deep Dive Unfiltered, and this is N signing off. Hope you all have a good one.